I spent 8 hours running around a randomized world, finding items that are out of place and fighting bosses that aren't supposed to be there. My goal for this playthrough is not to beat the final boss, but to complete 7 randomized goals. This is the story of my 20-hour journey to complete those goals. Hi peeps! Last time we left off, I found the Mimic Tear and slew it on my first try, allowing me to finally check off my second goal on the list after nearly 7 hours. With another goal checked off, I decided it's time to change up my equipment yet again. This time I decided to try out the Gargoyle Greatsword. Since it's such a heavy weapon, I had to switch my helmet out for something much lighter and put on the Prophet Blindfold instead. I wandered about, exploring for a bit more, but nothing intriguing was showing up, so I decided to check the round table and see how the other Tarnished are doing. Roderica, the girl whose depressing chat we didn't pay attention to, has come to the round table. She's got this beautiful ability called Spirit Tuning, which lets us upgrade our spirit ashes. I've collected plenty of glove words, so I figure I may as well use them. Instead of upgrading our page spirit that has helped us out so far though, I kick him to the curb and upgrade my demi-human buddies instead. They were instrumental in my first playthrough of Elden Ring, so I decided to bring them back and upgraded them to +4. After getting a tune-up, I head back out into the randomized world. This time, I decide to try Morgott another time and see how I fare now. I'm feeling a little stronger. Nope, Morgott shows me that I am not stronger. I'm still an unworthy insect in the face of his holy might. Instead of banging my head against the wall that is Morgott, I decide to try and explore the underground region of Siofra River instead. At least that area has a starry sky I can look at. I climb on Yaki's back and splash around for a bit. After exchanging some of my infinite lives for items scattered across this underground river and not finding any of my goal items, I decide to exit out the other side of this river into the red skies of Caelid, but Elden Ring thinks I've had enough for the day. The game gets stuck on a loading screen and won't let me out. After an 8-hour stream, my longest stream to date, I agree with Elden Ring and decide to call it a day. When I was preparing for the second stream of the Elden Ring randomizer, I decided to look up all my goals to make sure I knew what they were, and this is when I realized the Brave's Leather Helm is actually an unobtainable item. So, I roll another goal, and the armor goal is replaced with Malekith's armor. After a good rest period, I came back into Elden Ring, refreshed and ready to go. First up is a Knight's Cavalry, which is a field boss that only shows up at night. These Nazgul-inspired horsemen have nothing on me though, and I take him down first try. Next up is the demi-human queen that we saw as soon as we left the tutorial cave, Maggie Sentinel. She's looking pretty tough at first, but after our struggles and tribulations of the last stream, we're much stronger than we were last time. Just like the Knight's Cavalry, she also goes down without a single death to my name. I'm on a roll here. This is where I start to bite off more than I can chew, and try to fight the flying dragon at Jula in the lake next to the starting area. I take a few deaths to bring my counter up to 69, and decide my time would be better spent if I go somewhere else for a while. I can always come back when I'm more prepared. I decide to do some more cave spelunking and head towards Murkwater Cave. After nearly yeeting myself off a cliff by accident, I arrived at the entrance of Murkwater Cave only to be ambushed. Preceptor Miriam shows up and tries to take me out from afar. With my amazing dodging skills, I rolled all through her attacks and sliced away until she faded away. I didn't even get grazed by her arrows. That's how amazing I am. Anyways, with that ambush out of the way, I head inside the Murkwater Cave. Upon entering this dank cave, I see a dog lurking about. I quickly crouch down to hide in the bushes, trying to take a moment to properly assess the surroundings, but it was too late. The dog had already seen me. I rush in and slice it apart with ease, but then I hear a dreadful sound. The sound of a bell being rung. There's only one enemy that rings bells in this game. The snail. I saw a monster lurking in the darkness, coming out from the depths of the cave. Then I heard the dreaded sound again. More bell ringing, and I knew there would be more enemies. I found myself face to face with deadly monsters, but I trudged on. I outfaced them bravely, but with every enemy I slew, another seemed to take its place. But something seemed off. A snail wouldn't call a different monster each time it rang the bell. It must be a devilish monstrosity I've never seen before. I would have to hope that there is a lull in the combat, a moment between the monsters being called and the next wave being summoned. Eventually, I found myself facing off with an Onyx Lord, a practitioner of the Gravity Sword fighting style. It was a hard fight, but I came out victorious. And then there was silence. No more bells rang. No more enemies came out. Was this finally my long-awaited lull in the waves of monsters I had to defeat? I rushed into the depths of the cave to find the evil bell ringer that was calling all these monsters, but all I found was a chest with a prattling plate lying inside, but there was no sign of the devilish snail-like monster that was ringing a bell to summon the monsters I faced. I leave, head drooping in defeat, when I realized there were bell alarm traps on the floor. I was the one running over the chains of the alarm bells, calling out monsters from the depths of the cave. I was the devilish, snail-like monster. After that surprising twist of a cave that didn't reward us with anything good, I decided to check out the village of the Albinarics. I find and kill the Omen Killer avatar in the village, but I end up leaving the village without anything interesting to show for it. I pick another random spot on the map and decided to go to the Lakeside Crystal Cave. I found the Crucible Tree armor in there, a Ruler's Mask, and the Bloodhound Red Wolf as the cave boss. This cave really kicked my butt, and eventually I decided to cut my losses and left the cave when I reached 76 deaths. At this point I figured Khaled might be more fruitful, as there's more locations I haven't explored yet, with more randomized items I can find, with the hope of finding more of my goal items. First, I decided to level up a bit to get enough stats to use the Onyx Lord's Greatsword. Since I'm playing a randomizer, I may as well try out some stuff I've never tried before. I head to the Gale Tunnel to test it out. The weapon art is pretty cool, but it's not very practical in combat. The boss also kicks my butt a few too many times, so I make like a rabbit and scram off to the High Road Cave instead. Inside, I found a briar helm and a halberd lying around, and the boss that awaits is a Guardian Cleanrot Knight. I came in without many healing flasks, but the boss was fairly weak. Even my demi-human boys were doing a good amount of damage in each hit. I got a Somber Smithing Stone 6 for my troubles. Next up is the Tombsword Cave. The trek in was fairly uneventful, but the boss here is 2 watchdogs. 2 huge cat statues in one tiny little boss arena, made for a really challenging fight. It felt like I could have beaten them, and on my 3rd attempt I did manage to kill one of them, but when I died yet again, I decided to leave and come back when I'm stronger, instead of banging my head against their stony bodies. At this point, instead of bashing bosses, I changed the pace a bit. I figure it's a good idea to slay all the merchants to consolidate their inventories. If I need something from a merchant, it's fairly hard to remember which merchant has what in a randomizer. The Twin Maiden Husk gives us a handy one-stop shop for all the merchants we killed. After finishing my merchant murder spree, I decide to wander around the lands between some more. Unfortunately, all I got to do was spend time on Yaki's back, not finding anything of value. Now I decide to explore the Stillwater Cave, finding Radahn's gauntlets, and one of the toughest bosses in the entire game, the one, the only, Soldier of God, Rick. After one of the most excruciating fights ever, putting all my muscles to work, I managed to barely take him out, and for my Herculean efforts, I was rewarded with my first ever remembrance, the remembrance of the Wrought Goddess. Wow, does it feel good to find something interesting, even if it's not one of our goal items. I warp back to the table around, hoping to exchange the remembrance for something good, only to be met with a cold stone door close to my face. Seems like I can't exchange remembrances until I actually beat a boss that was supposed to have one. Oh well. I head out to explore some more and end up talking to Blythe, which reminded me about Everjails. First up, the Forlorn Hound Everjail. We call up Blythe to help us out to face our opponent, the Bloodhound Ancient Hero. Blythe makes this fight much easier with his great fighting skills. Next up is the Stormhill Everjail, and it turns out the Crucible Knight Godfrey is hiding within. We're at a reasonable strength now, so taking Godfrey down wasn't too bad, but all I got was a Fire Blossom. That's a randomizer for you. I head back to the table around to find out I still can't access remembrance exchanging. Seems like I'll have to fight off a boss in the spot where I normally get a remembrance before I can exchange one. So I keep exploring because I want to get stronger before I try to take on anything crazy. I end up at the Revenger's Shack and take out Edgar the Revenger, bringing Irina and her father's story to a close. On the bright side, I was rewarded with an Omen Killer robe and a Banished Knight's Halberd +8. Since it's hugely upgraded for me already, I decided to use the Banished Knight's Halberd to see how it goes. I also swap out armor for the Fingerprint armor, since it looks so good with the Prophet blindfold. Moving on, I head to the Cuckoo's Everjail next. Aiden, Carrion Knight, awaits us, and while my new +8 weapon does huge damage, I'm still learning the weapon so he manages to knock us out. I try again, and watch what happens now. Oh my god, this move is OP. Spin to win, baby! I gotta love it. This is my new favorite weapon skill. I move on to the next Everjail with great confidence, the Malefactor's Everjail. The boss inside, Crucible Knight Thief of Fire, quickly humbles me and reminds me that I can't just spin to win everything. After several deaths, I give up on a quick win and move on. I go back to try and fight the flying dragon Ajula. After a few tries and deaths, we managed to take him out with the power of Spin to Win. Feeling good about myself with my trusty Spin to Win weapon, I head to Red Mane Castle for some fun. I explore around, but no gold items were found in the castle, so I head to the boss room and face the Crucible Knight Sanguine Noble. My demi-human boys were extremely useful here, and they land the last blow to take him out. Unfortunately, I didn't know that beating this boss doesn't give you any reward. At this point, I'm a little tired of running around Caelid to not find any gold items, so I decide to try fighting Magma Worm Morgott again. I die, and die again. On my 6th attempt, I make it pretty far into the fight. I run out of healing flasks, and I'm low on health, but so is Morgott. Oh no, please, please! Oh, thank God! I literally have like 1 HP, I swear. I just barely managed to eke out a victory. With just a sliver of health that you can't even see on the health bar, I achieve victory over Morgott. With this, I can finally reach the Altus Plateau. That means I can talk to Kale at the Church of Ella and get a hint for my randomized item goals. Oh, but wait, what's that? He only gives hints for items that are required for progression. I didn't realize that. I thought I could get hints for any items from Kale, so I decided I'll just keep exploring for now. Who knows when I'll find my next goal item. Since I've finally unlocked the Altus Plateau, I check out the Sage's Cave, which is in the area. I always like that cave, lots of treasure chests in there. And speaking of treasures, I find the remembrance of the Omen King lying inside one of those chests. I fight an interesting pair of enemies, a Necromancer Tricia and Necromancer Misbegotten Warrior. They managed to get me a couple of times, but eventually I get them. And for my efforts, I get the Elden Remembrance. That's super cool. But let's not forget that this cave has 2 bosses. Nearby is another boss room, and it's got the Black Knight Falling Star Beast. It was so tanky, too tanky for me, and so after a couple of tries, I gave up. For now, instead of exploring caves, I headed for the war camps of the Altus Plateau for a change of pace. The war camps had some interesting enemies, and mostly useless items. A little tiny camp on the fringes of the war camps. There's a body which held the remembrance of the Black Blade. I'm just finding remembrances lying around everywhere like it was trash. At this point, I switch out my body armor for the Crucible Tree armor. It doesn't look as fashionable as the fingerprint armor, but at this point I just want to get tougher to defeat enemies and try to find my random goal item. I also pick up a Great Hood from a random body that I might end up using later on. Although I didn't find any of my goal items, I leveled up a bit from exploring the plains of the Altus Plateau, so I try out some new face gear. The Ruler's Mask doesn't look too bad and it's a bit better than the Prophet's Blindfold, so I swapped them out. I decided it's about time to head into the capital city of Lindal. That means we had to take on the draconic Dragonkin soldier. It took a couple of tries, but eventually I managed to whittle his health weight into nothingness. After heading in, I switch face gear again, this time for the Consort's Mask, because it's less ugly than the Ruler's Mask. That Ruler's Mask had a pretty short reign. I want to go inside the capital, but find myself blocked by a magical golden door. Since I can't head into the capital, I switch gears and try heading into Stormvale Castle instead. We were devastated by Niall, the Fell Omen, last time, but this time it will be a totally different story. My first try was a very close warm-up attempt, where I nearly managed to win. On the next attempt, I managed to get in a great backstab, a few spin to wins, and one last slice to finish him off. While victory feels good, it's at this point I realize I'm 6 hours into my second stream for the randomizer run, and I haven't completed any more of my goal items. So instead of going into Stormvale, I decided to try progressing Randy's questline and headed back to Caria Manor to face off against the Royal Knight Leonine Misbegotten once again. The first gets us pretty close. The second try was better, but still only got us just as far before falling a little short. On the third attempt, we use all of our previous experience and wail away at the beast with precision to another beautiful victory. Killed him! With a spin to win! Now we can go over to Ranni's tower. I see the dragon that guards Ranni's tower, and it's normally supposed to start breathing fire all over us, but it's kind of passive. So I just ride Yaki past it and speak to Ranni. After a bunch of conversing, we've unlocked Seluvis' tower. I head over to Seluvis, who's looking pretty different than usual, and accept his quest to get the not potion. I forgot, I made everything randomized in this randomizer. Even the quest items are randomized, and for some reason, Saluvis thinks I progressed this quest, so I check his shop even though I know I'll be disappointed. I continue exploring the lands between and end up at the Royal Grave Everjail. Heading inside, we come face to foot with Bull's Lord. He does big damage, but is pretty slow and doesn't one-shot me, so it was just a matter of time before I spun my way to victory and got rewarded with the Bone Peddler's Bellberry. After my victory against the Bull's Lord, I try to explore the Altus Plateau some more in hopes of finding treasure amongst the many miscellaneous items scattered about. Eventually, my travels take me to the Windmill Village, where a Godskin Putrid Avatar resides. His Scarlet Rot, Sacred Lasers, combined with his huge health pool, make for an annoying fight. Once, twice, thrice I try, and thrice I fail. I decide to come back when I can do more damage to make it an easier fight. I say hi to Goldmask, and then finally remember that I can go to Stormvale. I ignore Gustok's advice to take a sneakier route and head straight through the main gates of Stormvale. The castle defenses are insane here, with all manner of beings guarding the area here. I managed to grab an ancient dragon smithing stone while bobbing and weaving my way over. I take a rest at the Grace before the boss fight and put on the Great Hood because it looks hilarious and has surprisingly decent stats, and swap out the Crucible gauntlets for Radahn's gauntlet because I can't help but min-max a bit. I head into the castle garden to find Margit the Grafted instead of Godric. Well, I always did feel that he was more of a boss than Godric anyways. I try to do some spinning to win, but that doesn't work so well on Margit with his good posture. I slice away at him with poise and precision instead of just spinning like a top, but I still want to finish him in style, so I top it off with a little spin to win anyways. He drops Godric's Great Rune anyways, so the randomizer ended up randomizing it back to its original location. Finally, we unlock the ability to exchange remembrances for stuff. Unfortunately, we don't end up finding any of our goal items at the Finger Exchange Meeting, so we use them up for runes instead. After selling all the remembrances to Hugh, I've got 180,000 runes. That's huge! This lets me level up all the way to 63 for lots of nice stats. With my newfound strength, I decide to go back to the tutorial cave and take on the 3 Crystallions of Godric. I make a few attacks and then they hit me with the Scarlet Rot. I didn't know they could do that. Crystallions are always slow to fight, so even though this isn't a hard fight due to the scaling from the randomizer, the Scarlet Rot does slow damage over time, so it puts pressure on me. After many backstabs, I finally get the Staff Crystallion armor broken. With some spin to win, I take it out and break the armor on the Ringblade Crystallion at the same time. Spinning around some more takes the Ringblade Crystallion out, and it leaves us with just the weakened Spear Crystallion. After a few more attacks, his armor also breaks, and we just barely eke out a victory. We just barely made it out, with no healing flasks left, and oh no, Scarlet Rot killed me. Even in death, the Crystallion trio just couldn't let me have the win, and after running all the way back around to see what item is lying on the body past the Crystallion trio, it's just a gesture, not even an item. At least I can finally say I beat the tutorial cave. Yay! With the Crystallion trio behind us, I head over to the Grove Side Cave to take out the Assassin of Farum Azula. He goes down with some beautiful spin to win stagger locking. I also head back to the Tonesward Cave and take out the 2 watchdogs in the annoyingly small poison boss room. Finally, I head back to the Lakeside Crystal Cave and take on the Bloodhound Red Wolf and finish him off in style. I'm feeling good with all these boss kills in quick succession, so I decide to go after another and head to Gale Tunnel. Magma Worm Gary Garrus awaits us here, and after a mistake on my part of attempting to heal with the Physic, I do a smashing aerial attack to take him out. For a final test of my newfound strength, I tried taking out the Black Knife Falling Star Beast in the Sage's Cave. This was the cave with the 2 bosses, but I was only able to take out one of them on my first pass. Oh, I almost finished him in such a cool manner. There we go. With this great demonstration of my powered up self, I decided it's time to end my second ever 8-hour stream on a high note, even though I wasn't able to find any of my goal items. Since Kale won't give us hints for generic items, next time I'll get creative and have hints for myself, so I'm not running around like a headless chicken hoping to find the goal items. See you in the next part of my randomized goals playthrough of Elden Ring.